Hi there, Phil Rogers, 𝘄𝗲𝗽 here from Low Market Edge, coming to you with our weekly wrap. What's trending in lending? A little bit of a move. Welcome to our friend in the back corner. So
see the other side of the wall.
Yeah, correct. So a couple of big things. Firstly, a little bit of celebratory news if you haven't seen already. So we're very grateful and excited to share the news that at the recent Bankwest Broker of the Year Awards here in Queensland, we had a heap of wins as a team, which is really good. So I was fortunate enough to pick up Broker of the Year personally.
Should drum roll that.
Yeah, I should have drum roll that. Which is really cool. Very cool to pick that up for Queensland statewide amongst the industry. We took our Office of the Year, Low Market Edge, Office of the Year for Queensland, and our very own Lauren Hall in the quality submission or submission quality category, which is a really tricky one, I guess. And again, in all of these awards, these are team awards. These aren't by all means individually, but that's, you know, a real testament to the quality of what the team behind us provide in that particular award, which was awesome. Big shout out firstly to our team for helping making that happen. Shout out to Bankwest for being awesome, and Loan Market themselves as an aggregator. They were there to help us celebrate on the night with a few shandies as we did. And also 𝘄𝗲𝗽, legend, shout out, another low market broker based in Brizzy, made his way into the Bankwest Hall of Fame.
He did.
So very, very cool. It was a great night, good to see everyone, and nice to have those events back together again as they slowly start to happen. But good news, well, bad news. Jokes. We don't have any bad news. We're the good news brokers. So it's all good news today. Yeah. And we thought what was really relevant is around first home buyers. So what a time to be alive and what a time to be a first home buyer. So understanding rates are still moving around. There's a lot happening in the market. And I guess we're getting that question a lot as well because rents are getting so out of control. Yes, rates are moving, but affordability for a lot of households is still quite strong when it comes to going, well, we should probably just buy, you know, that jump in rent now that we're going to need to pay, that's potentially in a year's time, that's our deposit, right? So we've got to look at this very differently. So we are seeing an influx of first home buyers again, and we thought we'd use this week to talk a little bit more about those and everything that is available. Firstly, we might talk state-based, I guess. Yeah, state-based if we start there. Maybe talking about stamp duty. I will let you talk now. I'm just going to get it out of the way so I can interrupt and take over.
My 2 minutes of fame. So Queensland government has a stamp duty incentive for first home buyers. So it's open to permanent residents and citizens. Your price cap is a purchase of $500,000, and they will waive your stamp duty. Okay, you must occupy the property. It must be your home to live in. So it's a great one to take advantage of. You only get it the once. So if you are purchasing, it does make the 500 purchase price quite a competitive space, but a great one to grab if you're buying your first home is get your stamp duty waiver.
If you are building, land and build, land cap is $250.
Yes.
Now, so that segues into, and that's because that's on established properties. You go to land and build, it's $250 on land, and we're just going to pump through these as we go because we talk about them all day. So land and build for in Queensland, state-based again, the incentive to build, which is the FOG. So we're going to talk about the FHLDS, the FHSS, the FHOG. We're going to talk about all of them, but the FOG is still that 15,000 is still available for first home buyers building or purchasing in a property that's never been occupied. So that 15,000 is still there and available. If there is new stock we're starting to see an influx now of that stock starting to come back. And that is up to $750 as a purchase price. But by all means, please Google all of these if you want to double check a little bit more about these.
I think I have an email template with all the links.
With the links, but also there's some eligibility requirements for some of these. So we're taking a very high level approach to some of these notes, but we thought it would be a good conversation. So the the FHSS.
FHSS is the First Home Super Saver Scheme.
Yes.
So that's
I left an S out, but
you did leave. That's right. is if you're salary sacrificing, really common for government employees, so nurses, teachers, Queensland Health, that kind of thing, but you also sometimes, depending on your employer, can still salary sacrifice. If you salary sacrifice to super and you've been doing that for 12 months, you can apply to withdraw those additional contributions to go towards your first home as well. So great little pump up for your deposit.
Yeah.
It's got to be the additional contributions that you make.
Yeah, great space to be putting it, and way better than in a lot of cases saving it in the bank. And the FHLDS, which is also the RHGS and the FHGS, and they've changed the names, but let's just go. Most people are more familiar with the FHLDS, which is that first home low deposit scheme, where you can put down a minimum deposit. You can borrow up to 95%, and the government will guarantee your loan. There's probably three big areas that stand out there. One, you don't pay lender's mortgage insurance. Now, some of the price caps in different areas plays a big role, but on average, that can be anywhere between sort of 10 to 20 grand in a saving in lender's mortgage insurance. You get to put down a lower deposit, so you're able to get into a home sooner. You only have to save, if you put down the 5% deposit opposed to saving, in excess of 10 or 15 to cover that. And the third one is interest rates. Now, this is probably one that's just happened by default and wasn't necessarily driven by the way that the government introduced the scheme, but at the bank, you are then viewed as a client, not someone that has a 5% deposit with a 95% loan to value ratio, and your interest rate would then be according to that LVR. Under the scheme, with the guarantee, you're viewed at an 80% loan to value ratio. So in a leverage point, you go from maybe a 6 at the current rates, you go from in excess of 6.5, 6.7, 7% rate if you only had very minimum deposit, down to closer to a 5%. So that leverage is often in excess of probably 1.5% difference on the scheme. So unintended probably from the government with how that works out, but you are definitely heavily are rewarded on that scheme from savings in an interest rate. So no LMI, lower deposit, and I was going to way better interest rate, a much better interest rate on that. For first home buyers, that is a federal based. So we moved from Queensland.
It's probably the tightest, strictest criteria. So that's a federal government offer.
Federal.
So us Kiwis don't get that. Yes. Aussie citizens only. The other state ones are permanent residents and citizens. Federal government just looks after the
definitely
Aussies.
Google the FHLDS ones, because there's eligibility requirements around postcodes and price caps, incomes. There's lots of things in there. So that's you want a deep dive, and there is only certain banks offering that. Obviously, us as brokers.
I reckon you could wake me up at 2 in the morning and I'd be like,
this bank,
feel like
but we know which banks are doing that and which banks are more favourable, because then they all have different policies around how does the genuine savings requirement met from both the federal government and from the bank's requirement. So there's a whole lot of stuff happening in there, but if we use two examples. Price cap here more so on the Gold Coast, let's say. Some areas are up to as high as 700. Under that scheme, it's the deposit as little as, including money there'll be stamp duty included, there'll be money for solicitors, fees, building and pest. So trying to give you a gross figure, that might be closer to 60,000. Without the scheme, we're going to be in excess of 90,000. More regional areas, when we sort of head up north to where the Townsville office is, for a 550 price cap, deposit could be as little as 45, including everything. Where it's in excess of sort of 60 to 65,000 if you don't have it. So huge differences, and just making things so much easier. It's a lot to take in, but if you are a first home buyer or know of a first home buyer, shoot them this video, get them in touch with us. Let's have a conversation. Let's get them ready, and potentially ready 6, 12 months, 2 years earlier than it would have been if they weren't taking advantage of these. So that's our top tips for first home buyers this week. A lot of those conversations are being had. So reach out if you know anyone or you are one. We'd love to help. Enjoy the weekend. Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.